How can we support firefighters, not just financially, but emotionally? What makes the biggest difference for them?
Just practicing kindness. The LAFD did everything that they could with the resources that they had. The departments that were responding as part of a mutual aid process, they did everything they could. Show your appreciation or just show your acknowledgement that they were there trying to do their job.
Hey everyone, this is Matt Kamen, your host of Nonprofit on the Rocks and co-founder of Envision Consulting. As always, bringing you insights and strategies to help your nonprofit not just survive, but thrive. I think most of you know this year Los Angeles faced some of the most devastating wildfires in recent memory. Everybody in my family lost a house, and it was a really horrible way to start the year. So today I'm bringing back my friend Liz Lin, who is the CEO of the Los Angeles Fire Department Foundation, which has been a lifeline for firefighters affected by these disasters, the men and women who are risking their lives every day.
Among other things, our conversation covers the challenges faced by both the community and first responders, the critical role of the foundation, and practical steps for preparedness and recovery. Liz, thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you, Matt. And I'm so sorry about your family and what you guys have gone through. It's not been an easy year for anybody in LA.
No, it's been a really shitty year, actually, but I am very excited to have you. It's just been a crappy year. We do what we got to do, right?
Unfortunately, it's called resiliency, and we can only be stronger from this.
That's all we can do. And so, because this is still my show and it's still a happy hour show, I know you're at the office and so you're not drinking, but I am. I opened up a really beautiful bottle of bourbon for me and you, even though you're not joining me. So cheers to you, my friend. Thank you for all that you've done this year. Cheers.
Well, thank you. One sip for you, one sip for me. So you're going to be very happy by the end of this conversation.
No, I really, really am. So if it's okay with you, I want to just start with the fires themselves, right? I mean, this has been extraordinarily intense. And for people who don't live in LA, I don't know if they understand the scale of disruption and honestly how it's affecting people. I will tell you that I finally went to go see the Palisades of Malibu 2 weeks ago because I knew I was interviewing you. I hadn't gone because I didn't want to see my parents' house, my parents' lot. I didn't want to see my sisters. I didn't want to see it all, but I finally went and it's devastating. Do you mind just explaining to our listeners what happened?
Listen, let me just put it all on a scale. If you live outside of LA, just imagine your town burning. We all know someone that was evacuated, who lost their home, who lost their business. And so the true impact is truly devastating. I also think within Los Angeles County, by the third day of these winds happening, and there were 6 fires going on at the same time. Everybody thinks about the Palisades because that was so significant, and Eaton because that was so significant. But I think everybody forgets that the city was still moving and the LAFD and all the fire departments were still reacting to their daily load. So when you ask me about describing what happened, I was at the Palisades probably within an hour and a half. I was down there. My job was to evaluate how bad this fire was and then to see what was immediately needed. And those first couple of hours, you're just responding. LAFD got there fast. It gave me a lot of pride to see how LAFD was responding. But, I've got memories. It's like photographs in my brain that I'll never forget. I saw people coming off of PCH and coming down the hill that were being forced to leave their cars with utter stunned looks on their faces. And, I remember seeing those looks from pictures from any war when you see people who are just kind of shell-shocked. And that's the people that were coming down from those fires. It was as if it was our own kind of war. And then hearing from the firefighters themselves who were up there coming down to the command center later that night and saying, we've never seen a wind like this. They've got utter looks of shock because the firefighters felt that they didn't do enough to save the homes, that they were really crippled because the helicopters couldn't go up because the winds were too strong, or because the fire hydrants weren't producing enough water, or because the winds were just so out of control, they were very limited.
Yeah, I can't imagine what you saw when you went. I am still mad at you for spending so much time up there for danger for you. And my family were some of those people that you saw walking away from their house. They didn't have a car. And so, yeah, it was terrible. Thank you for explaining that to folks if they can't quite see it. And when you talk about the firefighters, I mean, they face unimaginable pressure. I can't imagine running into danger, unable to save homes despite their best efforts. They ran out of water, right, in the Palisades. So for people who are listening, how can we support firefighters, not just financially, but emotionally? You know, what makes the biggest difference for them?
I think just practicing kindness. I've seen a lot of social media that to the point where I don't know what's real versus fake. And there's a lot of criticism about, I have a fire. There were no firefighters in my neighborhood. There were none of this. There were none of that. And I tell everybody, wait until you see the true details of what happened. The LAFD did everything that they could with the resources that they had. The departments that were responding as part of a mutual aid process, they did everything they could. Even if we had water, I don't think it would have affected because of the strength of this fire. And so when you ask me a question like that, it's practice some kindness. There's a lot of anger and people are turning on each other. They're turning on government. They're turning on nonprofits. I've seen the best of the best happen, and I've seen the worst of the worst happen in here. And so when I think about the firefighters, it's just show your appreciation or just show your acknowledgement that they were there trying to do their job. That's important for them to hear. And like after 9/11, we are going to see tremendous health issues from our firefighters moving forward because of the exposure. And people say, well, that's part of their jobs. But one out of every two households in the Palisades, I've been told, was either solar or had some kind of lithium batteries. And those were all toxic gases that were being inhaled during those days in the beginning.
Yeah. No, I know. It is devastating and it's going to continue to be devastating. And what I find to be so interesting about disasters is that it's like the top of the news, right? Everybody talks about it. Everybody thinks about it. It's like people are donating. And then a few weeks later, it's gone. It's no longer in the news. People don't think about it. And for the families and the firefighters who were affected, that's going to go on forever. And I think that's the hard part for me, obviously, because my family lost houses, but also for you, right? Because firefighters are going to always be dealing with that. So do you think it's okay for our listeners to go to like a fire station and just bring food and say thank you?
Yeah, absolutely. The firefighters are part of the community. These fire stations are in all the neighborhoods. So go say hi to your firefighters. That is an expectation, is that they are part of the community and that they're there for you. And they like to meet people and they like to understand who's in their neighborhoods and things like that. So I would encourage it.
Great. Okay. So anybody listening, like maybe go pick up some sandwiches and stop by and have a conversation and thank them. I do think that's really important. So your foundation does a lot. And I'm curious, how does your foundation support firefighters, the men and women who are risking their lives every day?
Our sole mission for the foundation is just to serve firefighters individually and collectively as part of the LAFD. And so when you ask about that, I kind of look at it in three different ways. What does every individual firefighter need? And based on this fire, we're buying them all goggles. We're buying them face shields to protect them from a lot of the embers. And so we're buying a lot of the things that we had initially purchased for everybody there. And now we're backfilling so that every firefighter has the same amount of equipment. We look at it per fire station. The fire stations are not upgraded. So when a washer, dryer, or refrigerator goes out, oftentimes that's the firefighters are buying it themselves. And so we have an adopt a fire station program where we can help the fire stations. And then there's the bigger request. The fire chief says, hey, I want everybody to have this piece of thermal imaging camera or a chainsaw for every rig. So we do those kind of things. I'm proud to say that we hit every facet of the fire department, whether you're an office person that's checking on inspections or you're an actual firefighter, you've been impacted by the donations from our donors.
I know that the foundation was there for firefighters and not for the folks who lost their homes, which I'm sure is difficult for you, but that's the mission of the organization. But I do have some questions for you about folks who lost their homes. So for people who lost their homes, right? I know personally too that the recovery process can be overwhelming and people just don't know what to do. So right away, what immediate resources do you think folks should know about?
The immediate resources that they should know about is that they should get in touch with their city council. Most of the city council members have been really extraordinarily visible in those affected areas, or the county board of supervisors. And there's a lot of resources that are available that people might not know about. With that said, I can understand the frustration with the regulations, the permitting, the insurance, and they just need to know what their resources and what their rights are. That's, I think, the most important part to get through all of this. But with that said, I can only imagine how frustrated everybody must be to try to get things rebuilt.
Yeah. And also, what I would think is most frustrating for you personally as my friend is you were there, you saw everything and you saw the devastation and how hard it was for firefighters not to be able to save every house and how you now know what the firefighters need. And I could just only imagine like you just being there and watching it with them and how challenging that must have been. I thank you so much for being there is all I just want to say. I hope people understand what you did.
Well, that's really sweet of you, but that's our responsibility. That's the only reason I got into nonprofit was to make a difference. And so on one hand, I'm watching this devastation with utter disbelief, but on the other hand, I'm like, this is what I'm here to do. And this is my job. And it's the mission of the LAFD is to serve the community. And our mission is to serve the LAFD with the intent that we help keep the community safer. So for me, I had a devil on one side and an angel on the other. Like we're doing good work, but it's utter devastation. So there is that kind of survivor guilt that exists with us.
I get it, but your job, your foundation is so vital for firefighters, and I get the guilt. And that's nonprofits. Like, we're never going to be able to solve every problem. So I get it. In terms of people who still have their homes, right? The risk of fire is not just real, but it's getting worse and worse and worse and scarier and scarier. So can you tell our listeners, like, what are some steps that they can take just to prepare if this happens to them?
When people talk about brush inspection and brush clearance, and you have a house that might be in an area or a neighboring area, and everybody kind of is like, okay, well, we're going to do it or we have to do it and blah, blah, blah. We now see what the effects of it are when someone didn't take care of their thing and then they were in a neighborhood house. I've heard a lot of stories about that. But I think it's making sure that you are as good as a citizen or as a resident and that your home is hardened. It only serves to protect yourself, to harden your home and making sure that you fit all those requirements, because doing that for every home collectively makes the city stronger as well.
I think the evacuation piece is also really interesting. People don't know what to do, right? For families, just to plan ahead. I always think to myself, like, okay, if I were being evacuated, what would I want to take from my house? What's most important? Just get the fuck out, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of advice for families that are planning ahead, what common mistakes do you see that people most often make?
I think the biggest mistake is oh, it's not going to be that big of a deal. I would say have a go bag. If at the very least, you have one copy of every old bill that you ever had so that you have all of those. You have your medications. Those are really the most important things that you need, right? And then I would say that with regards to the false premise, it's not going to be that big of a deal. I'm going to stay and wet down my house. And a lot of times that takes resources. So if you get stuck there and it's blazing, you're putting yourself at risk and you're putting firefighters at risk with that. I can't emphasize the importance of making sure that you're signed up for evacuation notices, make sure you have a go bag, and make sure that if it's a mandatory evacuation, go. Like the last thing we want to see is people who sacrifice their lives because they wanted to save their homes.
When people stay behind and don't leave on purpose, and then all of a sudden they're in danger and they call for help, that's what drives me the most insane, because now you're putting firefighters even more at risk.
Yeah, it's also tough because in certain areas of LA, there's only one way in and one way out. So if they're trying to bring fire trucks in and you're trying to evacuate at the last minute, you're also holding up extra resources. But with that said, I think preparedness is the key. And moving forward, if you question whether or not you're safe, chances are you're not. We just saw what happened in LA this year. And I would encourage everybody to remember that. And if that helps save lives, then maybe something positive can be done out of this tragedy.
I really hope so. So I want to be really clear to everybody listening that it's really important to me, especially in this interview with you and then talking about the fires. People make it very political, and I am staying as far away from anything political as possible in our conversation. That is not at all what I think is important for what you do for the fires and for what you do for the firefighters. I can only imagine the toll that this year has had on you personally. pushing politics aside.
Amen to that, because as a nonprofit, we're nonpartisan and our mission is clear. And I make sure that we stay close to our mission, which is help the LAFD. So right, left, green, yellow, blue, whatever. We're not taking sides on anything except to help the LAFD. So thank you for that.
So a big part of the show is talking about executive directors, CEOs, and how challenging it just is, period, to be a CEO of a nonprofit. You've dealt with horrible things that have happened this year. So like, how are you doing? This must have just taken such a personal toll on you individually. Like, how do you get through?
I'm not going to lie, it's been a tough year. And for different reasons. We received a lot of attention during the fires in January and February. And so it was nonstop work. And we're trying to get as much stuff out to the LAFD. So the pressure on both sides to make sure you're raising the money, but making sure you're delivering what you promised, it weighs heavy on me. But at the same time, it's like I've had to have some decompression moments just from what I saw, what I experienced, what I was a part of, but also making sure that we stay true to what the donors want to do and dodging as many bullets. The scammers who've tried to claim that they're us, like any nonprofit, it's your worst nightmare when you get a lot of attention and then people are trying to take advantage of it.
I didn't even think about that.
Oh, yeah. We had a lot of people do that.
God, that's frustrating. For listeners right now who are out there who want to help, whether it's donating or volunteering, supporting firefighters, however they can do it, what's the most impactful thing that we can do right now?
Listen, the city of LA has a budget problem. Everybody knows that. So the problems are not going away in terms of the limitations that the LAFD has. And we're as committed as ever to providing as much as we can. So the biggest help would be to do donations. But I would encourage everybody just to visit our website, supportlafd.org. There you'll see what we funded. You will see what our needs are. And if you choose to help, whether it's a local fire station or whether it's a project that we have going on, the website will show it all. So that would be my biggest message.
And if people do give to you, and it's just such an important cause what you do, what do firefighters need the most?
It really depends. But right now, we've got a couple of different focuses. We're buying some gloves. We're buying different equipment for the firefighters. We're trying to upgrade the stations so that they're a little bit more functional. And then we're also looking at buying vehicles and things that will make LA safer because we've got more resources to deploy.
So the last time, Liz, that we talked, and I love that interview. So I hope that people go back and listen to our interview. I think it was like 3 seasons ago that you were raising money for a helicopter. And I'm proud to say that you got it. So like, it's a huge accomplishment, right?
That was one of our proudest moments. That's a big ticket item to get. And we were able to get it, and they've been using it nonstop since. Thank you for all the donors who supported that effort.
I'm just so impressed by you. So before we wrap, do you mind just maybe leaving us with a few steps that everyone should take to be prepared, whether they're in LA or anywhere else in the country that's prone to emergencies? What's something actionable that people can start doing today?
I always anticipate the best and prepare for the worst. So just imagine that you have to call 911 one day. What do you need? So have your medical emergency history readily available, or know where your hospital is that you're going to go to if something happens to one of your children or one of your parents or your spouse. It's those simple things that you should know, but that you don't ever actually think of, right? And then for emergencies, when you know that there's a storm, a hurricane, fires coming, just be hyper alert. Sign up for the emergency alert systems so that you'll get notified if there's an evacuation. And then just have a plan of action for you and your family, an emergency phone tree to make sure that you guys can communicate to loved ones once it happens. Those are some of the most important things that I've seen.
Thank you. Before I let you go, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listener? Hopefully we still have them. About the foundation, about you, about firefighters, about anything that I didn't ask you that you think is important for people to know.
I would just encourage anybody that's interested in learning more about the fire department, go to lafd.org. If you want to learn more about LAFD and what they cover, visit our website, supportlafd.org, because it'll show exactly what we're doing. We're very transparent in our actions. And so I would welcome people to come check us out.
Liz, I want to thank you so much for joining us, for sharing your insights, for literally everything that you do and the amazing, incredible work that the LA Fire Department Foundation does to support our firefighters. They're so vital. They're so important. They were so important to my family this year. And I truly just want to thank you so much on behalf of all of LA and also me. Thank you very much for what you've done.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
And with us, as always, is our producer, Ashley Watterson. And Ashley, I haven't really had a chance to introduce you in a while. So I guess my question is first, how do you think you're doing as a producer these days?
I'm so glad you asked me that, Matt, because I like to think that I have finally shaken the albatross of mediocrity. But it's really not for me to decide. You're the boss. Have I?
What I appreciate about that mediocre response, Ashley, is that what you started with was, I'd like to think. And so if you'd like to think, then we both know you're still in that world.
Dang it. I'm constantly striving, Matt. I should have rephrased it to my goal is to shake the albatross of mediocrity. But apparently
Uh,
it's still very much around my neck.
Listen, all I'm going to tell you, Ashley, is I'm very happy with this season. I'm very happy with what we're doing. I'm very happy with what you're doing. I miss so much having our intros together. Now, our dear listener has to just hear me talk, but that's okay. We're good.
I know that whole getting to the point thing right at the beginning is really boring, but
Mm.
hopefully it's bringing more listeners to us, Matt, so that they can then hear us in the outro.
So, on that note, my friend, what did you think of my follow-up interview with Liz Lin?
I was really glad that you brought Liz back for an opportunity to just let us know how things are going with the LAFD Foundation. Both of you really did a good job of reminding everyone that there's still so much going on in recovery and will be for a long time. We all knew after 9/11, those firefighters that just ran headlong into danger and suffered repercussions in the aftermath. And unfortunately, I think that will be the case here too, that these heroes that run headlong into danger, which is something you and I both are like, nope, we are not built for that. But thank goodness that there are these heroes that will run into danger, and we don't know the long-term ramifications of that. And so thank goodness for the foundation that really is there to serve these heroes.
Yeah, it's true. I really wanted to bring her back. I really wanted to have a conversation, not just about the recovery, but also just what we can do moving forward. So I hope if people are listening to this, at least they start thinking about when an emergency happens again, what are you going to do next? That's just really important.
It's human nature to push away the thought of what might happen in terms of thinking about the worst. And I thought Liz said it best. She said her objective, and I think all of our objectives should be to hope for the best and prepare for the worst.
Yeah, 100%. And what I do want to make sure everybody hears is that Liz is not only the head of the foundation, she not only is out there raising millions of dollars for our firefighters, but she also was there. She went to the fires immediately. She stayed there for a week, 2 weeks, whatever it was. But that goes to show to anybody listening how dedicated she is specifically to the mission and how dedicated she is to the firefighters of the city. And I'm just so impressed by her and by that. They really did save a ton of lives. They did everything they could. I can only imagine how horrible it was for them to watch everything. On that downer of a topic that we just had, Ashley, give us a positive that we're going to go out of the show on.
You always ask me for what do I want to leave the listeners with? And I love that you framed it this time in what do I want to say that's positive, because that's exactly where I wanted to go. Because, and you and Liz talked about this, like 2025 has sucked for a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And what I wanted to say is what is making me happy right now? What is giving me joy? And I'm going to shout out another podcast because this podcast is well beyond ours, so it's not in competition with us. But I love Amy Poehler, and she has a podcast called Good Hang, which I find so fun. It's just all positivity. She starts each show talking well about people behind their backs, which, Matt, is something you and I don't do. we're not very good at. So she starts with that and then she talks to the guests. I was a big fan of SNL and Parks and Rec. It's always fun to hear from the colleagues that she brings back. And then I also was inspired to go back. And Matt, I don't know if you ever watched Parks and Rec, but I've been rewatching Parks and Rec, and that show is hysterical. So that gives me joy. But I wanted to toss back the question to you and ask you what brings you joy other than Botox.
What brings me joy other than Botox? Not much. Not much, actually. You know what brings me joy actually is thinking about the rest of this season. Halloween is my ultimate favorite holiday in the world. I love it. And so what brings me joy is that holiday coming up. And then, of course, Thanksgiving and then the end of the year. So that is what brings me joy. What does not bring me joy, Ashley, is the big birthday that I'll be celebrating in January. I'm not thrilled about the next decade. We're not there yet. So we've got some time.
Are you going to be 40? Is that happening?
Oh, no, God forbid. No, only 30. Chill
Okay.
out.
Okay. Phew. So sorry. How offensive.
Yeah, 50. 50 is coming. So here we are.
That's a step, Matt. Announcing publicly. That's a big step for you. I'm proud of you.
I know, I know. But the Botox in my system is 30 years old. So, you know.
You only look 30. That is for sure. Add that and the Zoom filters. Dude, you're barely pushing 25.
Good job. Good job. On the other joy note, I'm really happy that we're doing this again. I'm hoping that people like these shorter episodes and more to the point episodes, and looking forward to airing our next one in a few weeks. And on that note, Ashley, do you want to tell our listener who is still with us, and thank you so much for that, where they can find our show and all that good stuff?
You got it, Matt. For more on today's episode, to learn more about the LAFD Fire Foundation and all the good work they're doing, and to learn more about Envision Consulting and how we support organizations like yours, you can visit us at envisionnonprofit.com or connect with us on socials. Cheers.